Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight you shall see all kinds of curious things. You will see the world turned upside down. Yes, ladies and gents.
To describe the world of pre-cinema, it's best to think about our own multimedia world where we're surrounded by visual images all the time, whether they're on screens, on phones, on ATM machines, on flat screen TVs. There was a similar sort of excitement about the visual image during the Victorian period. There was also a similar growth in the number of devices that offered different kinds of moving images, different kind of projected images, and different type of 3D images, all enormously popular and successful for most of the Victorian period.
The first idea about projected images comes to the West, I suppose, in the 17th century. But quite soon after that, you have ideas like the camera obscura. You still get them today in many cities. You also get the magic lantern coming through at the end of the 17th century, and it remains probably the most popular form of moving image entertainment up to the advent of cinema.
A magic lantern is basically a simple slide projector. It uses images painted on glass or photographs on glass. But most people might think that's a kind of be-all and end-all of it, that it just produces still images. And that's not the case at all, because many of the images actually have moving parts. Some of them have levers, sliding pieces of glass, and also if you bank up your lanterns, you have 2 or 3 lanterns working in tandem, then it's possible to produce transformations, dissolves, all kinds of wonderful tricks. And that in a way is why it's called a magic lantern. And it retained that name right up until the beginning of cinema and beyond. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Bonzo, the Wonder Dog. Now Bonzo will perform a wonderful trick for you. He is going to leap into the air straight through the hoop at the word of command. And the word of command is hoopla. Here we go. Keep your eye on the dog. 1, 2, 3, hoopla. And now that's very difficult to do. Years of practice. I've always been interested in weird and wonderful forms of entertainment and of course in cinema. But I saw an article in a local paper about a man who collected magic lantern slides. Now, I thought I knew what a magic lantern was. I thought it was just basically a projector, a little metal projector which showed glass images, pictures of the Norfolk Broads and those boring things that missionaries used to produce, photographs of their work in various countries. And I thought that was probably the limit of what a magic lantern did. Anyway, he showed me all these wonderful slides. They were hand painted, there were wonderful narrative sequences, some showing just an amazing array of material. The first lantern slides were hand painted and drawn directly onto the glass. And round about the 1820s, a process came in called the copper plate process, which enabled you to print an outline onto the glass. And that really also saw the beginning of photographic images and of course mass production of magic lantern slides. Now, you may be wondering who invented this wonderful device, the magic lantern. Well, we don't know. What we do know is that it was used by conjuring priests like this chap you see here to literally put the fear of God into people in ancient times. People ask me a question which is, what is a magic lantern show? And really it's a very difficult question to answer because it basically was anything that you wanted it to be. So you could buy some of this great array of material that was commercially available. You could even make your own slides. There were shows which were full of thunder and lightning and theatrical percussion noises. Sometimes they would have been presented by spiritualists, sort of charlatan showmen who would have presented pictures on smoke in such a way that people had thought that they were supernatural images. There was a great spectrum of activity for the magic lantern, even in the early days. It appealed to all classes. So performances were for anybody who cared to come along. It was a huge industry.
In the world that Dickens lived, he would have been surrounded by the new visual and optical devices of the period. Living in London, he couldn't but have seen kind of the adverts for magic lantern shows, panoramas, or kind of stereoscopes. These would have been kind of on posters, on billboards.
Well, we know for certain that Charles Dickens saw the magic lantern when he was a young boy. When he was in Chatham, I think the next door neighbour's boy had a magic lantern and used to come round and entertain them with it. So he would certainly know about the lantern, and there were certainly allusions to the magic lantern in a lot of his works.
You can see that there are references, and they're used to describe characters, they're used to describe the process of the imagination. Dickens once said that writing away from London was like writing away from the magic lantern he used as his inspiration. So Dickens saw the magic lantern as a kind of trope for the imagination itself.
In 1863, the Royal Polytechnic presented an illusion known as Pepper's Ghost. The actors walk onto the stage and suddenly the image of a ghost appears on the stage with them. And it's done by projecting a bright light on a hidden character, usually below the stage, and that's thrown onto the glass. Well, the first playlet they used was the story by Dickens of The Haunted Man. Of course, it was a natural progression, really, for lantern slide producers to look to the works of Dickens. He was, after all, one of the most popular writers of the time. There were certain supernatural elements as well in Dickens' work, which worked very well for the magic lantern, certainly with Gabriel Grubb, the story of the sexton and the goblins.
Dickens gave lots of readings up and down the country, and as part of the process for this, he was always cutting down his own narratives. So with A Christmas Carol, for example, you get 2 or 3 set-piece scenes that everybody would know, and those would always be the scenes that would then be transferred into the magic lantern slide or to early cinema. So audiences would have recognised the iconography of the images straight away, and people would have really kind of responded to that familiarity. One of the characteristics of Dickens' popularity is the sheer number of different adaptations from the very, very beginning of his career and right up until today. So there's always something of a circularity about Dickens' popularity. He's popular because he was adapted so much, and he's also adapted so much because he was popular.